All right, welcome back to Corona Geek. Number 191 is a beautiful day in the neighborhood, and today we are joined by Stephen Johnson from Evolvo Studios. We've got Chunky Apps, aka Mobile Octopus. We've got Mike Himfling from Crave Creative, Ed Marina from RoamingGamer.com. Lurd is lurking out there from SpiralCodeStudio.com. Rob Miracle from the forums, of course, and Chris Byerly, who is also with Corona, but also Coronium, who is, just a genius out in the middle, living out in the middle of nowhere. So I'm still classifying Tulsa, Oklahoma as the middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
That's the guy.
I like it that way.
Yeah, well, everything.
Exactly.
Just because you're in your own country doesn't mean
Yeah, let's not get into that discussion because we could go hours on that one. So let's get into today's topic. I want to start off by saying that Ed has put a lot of work into this project. It's taken many forms. He's got a lot of great user feedback, and he's shown us different versions at different times. But I know he's been working on it feverishly for the past several weeks. So we really want to hear what's the latest with EAT, or also known as Ed's awesome tool.
We're going to have to come up with a new name, but I'm leaving that for last because, naming things is fun, but it's totally unimportant at the end of the day. Well, not entirely. Anyways, so where are we at? Last time we talked was on the After Dark. So some of you folks who are watching this may not have watched that. But at the time, let me just show my screen real quickly here. I'll give you the summary 5-minute. Can you guys see my desktop?
Yes.
All right. So currently out in the world is the version that I'm moving around here, which is called EAT Frameworks. And in a nutshell, what it is a tool that is designed to help new and experienced users quickly set up a working framework. And when I say framework, what I mean is it could just be the 3 files, which is config Lua, build settings, and main. Or it could be more than that. It could be interfaces, composer interfaces, that is scene files and code to launch ads and set up sounds and stuff like that. So a little bit more involved. And if you look at this tool as it stands now, you're able to generate a number of fixed projects. So the empty project, which is just the 3 files, or a mobile ad framework, which is a full-on application minus the guts, which is set up to handle banner ads, launch ads, game over ads, interstitials, and you can configure all that through the tool here. And then a third one, which is for Apple TV, which is sort of like a reduced functionality version of the mobile version. And I say that only because it's got all the same features, but there are fewer ad networks that work currently for Apple TV. So I think the only one that this one supports is AppLovin. So I think that's 2 minutes. So I can't stress enough that this tool is really about just like making your life easier to get started, the current variation. And with respect to that, one of the things that a lot of people struggle with is setting up their config Lua file, or more specifically, or more trouble for them is the build settings file. People want to use the plugins that are provided by Corona. They want to set up specific features, and they don't know how to approach it. They see the docs, they cut and paste stuff into their build settings file, and it just doesn't work, and they're confused or whatever. So this tool is currently, in its current state, you just click buttons and say, I want the Ad Buddies and Ad Mob Network plugins. I want Flurry. Let's see what else. I keep trying to drag because the new one's got scrollable areas. I want, let's see, the Near Field plugin and the Zip plugin. And then you would just click Generate, and what this will do is will spit out a appropriately configured build settings, config Lua, and main file, and then you could take those and get started on your project. Or you could create a mobile game app. Let's just do it this way. Just select the mobile template, give it a name, Moneymaker, and then go over to the interfaces. Now here's where this one falls down. Currently, the version that I have is fixed. It provides a splash screen, a home screen, a play screen, and a game over screen, and that is it. Within here, there's lots of options that you can click on. For example, on the splash screen, you could say that you want to have a launch ad, and you want it to be an AppLovin ad. So you select AppLovin, and you put your ad ID in, and boom. Once you generate, it's going to generate code with a splash screen that will launch an AppLovin ad when your app starts. And that's as easy as it gets. So I don't want to talk too much more about this one. This one's highly functional at this point. It's available for sale as an early adopter product. And the reason it's an early adopter product is because, as Charles said, this thing has gone through a number of variations and improvements. And I feel like at this point it's quite good, but it is not what the audience has expected and requested. What everybody really wanted was a drag and drop tool. They didn't want a point and click tool. They wanted a drag and drop tool. So that is what I am doing now. I'm nearly ready to do a release that will have almost all of the functions that the previous version of this tool had. That is ad networks, plugin generation, build settings, all that stuff. But on top of that, you'll be able to arbitrarily configure what scenes, and this looks a little bit hard to read right now because I got the debug code turned on. You'll be able to arbitrarily configure and set up as many scenes as you want simply by creating a new scene, opening it, putting in buttons, configuring that button, giving it visuals, giving it new titles, and then you go back to the map view and you'll be able to take that scene you created and just drag and drop, connect it to the scene that that button is supposed to go to. You'll be able to click generate. And why don't I do this right? I'm going to reload this, and I think it's going to prompt me to install some content. And I will go ahead and start a new project. This has got a whole bunch of debug settings. So it does look a little bit different. So let me just start a new project. So let's call this one Bob's Uncle. Or Bob's your uncle. And create. And start, and we'll create a start GUI. We will start, and we will create a home GUI. Now this is sort of redundant with what I showed on the Corona Geek Hangout, or the After Dark that is, but nonetheless, I do want to show you this and a couple of other things real fast. I think I'm outside of my 5 minutes here. I'm talking fast. Let's see, play GUI and a help GUI. This is where it all fell apart in the show. So I'm going to do it, and it's going to work this time. So currently, I don't have an auto link, so we'll just use a button. Call it go. Go back to the map. Go edit this, add a button, call it play. Add another button, call it I'm lost. Hopefully you guys can see this. It's probably a little bit small on the screen. Back to the map, put a back button in here. Put that there. It doesn't matter where it is. Let's put that back button on the help screen. Okay, we just connect these screens. So start screen, play screen. Let's get these so we can kind of read them so they make sense. I'm lost goes to the help screen goes back to the home screen, play screen goes back to the home screen. We are done. Now, assuming that I have not broken something in the moments before the Hangout, I will click Generate, and it will produce a whole set of files here. Bob's your uncle. And it creates the main file, config file, build settings file, which I'll show you in just a second. It creates the scene files, help, home, play, start, which correspond to each of these. And if I were to open these, there'd be code in here for the buttons and whatnot, which I'm not going to show you right now because that's going through a little bit of turmoil. But I will show you is build settings. If you give me just one moment. Bingo. Start a new editor because I think this is fun. So build settings. Let me just bring up the full on view. This is the file that is generated, the build settings file that is generated by default with default settings. So we're using a portrait orientation. We got a bunch of iPhone stuff in here about the default icons. We got a bunch of default Android code here, desktop code, tvOS code, and exclusions. So let's go ahead and add some plugins. I can find the app. Here it is. So you would go over to the settings plugins, and then you could scroll through a list of plugins. This is a lot like the previous interface on the last tool. It's just that now everything's got nice scrollable areas. We can add the bunch of stuff here. And there we go. Now we're going to click generate. Where's the generate button?
I like that it puts them in alphabetical order.
Yeah, you know, while I do these things, I do like, okay, let me go back there. So this is like, I was doing this, I was working on this, and originally when I had it, it would just like pop in and then sort the list and it would instantaneously update. And I thought, you know, if I'm going to do this, I might as well make it a little sexy. So I thought, what's one of the things you see when people do interfaces? Well, if I were to take the add mob plugin out, you would like to see these all shift up. So I put it in there. It was one line of code. Really, literally. That's the thing I love about Corona is I did this, and originally what it was I just placed these items in a list in a Y position. This Y position, that Y position. And I realized that if I wanted to get a sexy transition, all I had to do was put a transition on it. So instead of assigning it directly, I used the transition with a delay of 250 milliseconds. And it gave me exactly what I was looking for. So this is one of those things, like I said, about Corona that I just love is people, I know people when they get started, they're like, I don't understand how to do these things. And I want to tell them is, yes, it's fine. You don't understand, but you have to realize that it's because you have to code this stuff using the tools that Corona gives you. And they give you a wide range of what I consider tools in your toolbox. So, and very functional stuff. Anyways, so here's all the stuff that we're going to generate. Unfortunately, I goofed up and the generate button is only available here. So let's go ahead and click it. And there's no feedback right now. Normally there'd be a graph saying, hey, I'm almost done, click, and then it's done. So I'll assume it's finished now. And here we are. All the correct plugin data has been populated. As the current tool is, this tool also handles cross. There are certain plugins that have requirements that certain settings be set in like the config Lua file. So if you set the wrong thing there, this tool will catch it. It'll tell you, hey, you made a mistake, and I'm going to go ahead and set the right setting for you. And anyways, that's about where we're at. So that was more than 5 minutes. I apologize. But in summary, the new tool is everything the old tool was, with the ability to create an arbitrary number of user interfaces that you can configure and edit the visuals, edit the layout of the buttons, edit the linkage, everything right here, drag and drop. And that is what I am going to call stage one of the improvements to the tool. Stage one of the improvements is to let you build user interfaces. And that will include like sounds and images and everything. It'll be everything that you would want in a drag and drop tool minus the ability to create game content. Game content creation is stage two. So I'm going to give you a teaser on that. This is just a teaser. This may not be what it'll turn out to be. But, well, why don't we go? So the tools are already in there. I'm just, I'm not testing them right now. So I'm not even going to click on this because I've made changes. I don't know what it's going to do. But there's two basic concepts here, which I borrowed from another tool that I saw, which is the user interface and the world. And the world is what I would consider the game content. So the guts, everything that you consider the game minus the interface. So that's stage two. But but not real exciting. But one of the things that I realized is having this tool like this makes it easy for me to create content. So previously what I did was I packaged a bunch of like sample games with the last version of the tool. And those are in there, but they're all like hand coded. And I thought, if I'm making a visual editor, why don't I visual edit some basic themes, sample layouts, and include them? So I thought, why not approach some of the classics? And so I have in mind, as the late work in stage 2, is to produce a number of what I would consider like basic templates that emulate the mechanics of some of the more popular games to show people how to do those things with this tool. So that stuff's not getting released quite yet. We're only at stage 1, but stage 2 is what we have to look for. That's the exciting part for me. So things like Asteroids and 1943, I'm sure we're familiar with these games, but these all have very standard mechanics that people use over and over in their games. Now, whether or not I'll be able to list the names here, I don't know. I'll probably have to put like registered trademark or something like that. But this is just my thoughts in a visual at this point.
So go back to the list. So you got scroll down just a little bit. You've got the Gauntlet, Ghouls, and Ghosts. All right.
Not all of these will make it in there. These are off my personal list of games that I thought were useful for implementing due to the mechanics that there's a certain subset of mechanics that you see get used over and over. Mm-hmm. For example, everybody makes in their lifetime, if they make games, they will find themselves making a clone of Asteroids.
Right. So what's the mechanic for that one?
Okay, great. So the mechanic of Asteroids: one enemy, one player, one enemy weapon, one player weapon. Screen wrapping, player movement, which is based on joystick input, so joystick mechanics implementation, and depending on what version of Asteroid you're talking about, you may get forced acceleration or linear velocity style movement. Both are possibilities. So what have we covered there? We've covered basic creation of some very rudimentary object types, enemies and players, weapons, movement, inputs, and an interesting mechanic, the one that everybody is drawn to about Asteroids, which is the screen wrapping mechanic, which is where you go off the top of the screen and you come back on the bottom with a side, etc. So that's a really super basic game that covers a lot of key territory in game development learning.
So would this in fact then generate a version of Asteroids, or? Yeah,
so what this would do is it would generate a rudimentary Asteroids game. It would have all the basic elements in there functional. And you just do it, and you can click generate, and you'd select this as your option. You click create. It would come up with the appropriate screens, like the splash screen, the play screen, whatever. And then also it would include a world screen, which would contain an implementation of Asteroids using my libraries and the elements that will be available in stage 2.
So then from there, will there be a level editor that people can go in and move things around? Or?
Well, this is a level editor. This is literally a level editor.
Okay.
I mean, there's the concept of the level is below the concept here. That's just a subset of this concept. To say the word concept over and over. The point of this is that you are able to edit single level worlds, multi-level worlds, multi-world games. So when I say multi-world games, for example, a game where you've created a certain kind of gameplay and a set of levels, and then once you get done with that, maybe you move on to the next stage of the game, which is different, has different mechanics or different rules, like an evolving style game.
Hey, Ed?
Yeah.
That's a really awesome idea. I think also, like, you could also do something like, hey, I want to put in the slingshot mechanic from Angry Birds. So rather than creating an entire Angry Birds game, you could just put in that mechanic of being able to pull back shoot something, or any popular games or mechanics where maybe you don't have to create the entire thing. Like even in Asteroids, when I think about it, you know, just being able to rotate the ship and fire and have that bullet go at that exact angle it's supposed to, you know, just those basic things that a lot of people might not know how to do.
Yeah,
Right.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, even that mechanic alone, you can reuse, in
Yep.
so many games.
Yeah.
So stage 2 is pretty large. Go ahead. I'm sorry. You guys finish now.
So what you were saying basically is that having the whole game might be a little overwhelming, but having just the little piece might be more useful.
Yeah, because there's definitely, you know, if I'm working on a game and hey, you know, it'd be cool to have that mechanic of firing a slingshot now instead of having to recreate that, or, you know,
Let me answer that.
You know.
So I hear 100% what you're saying, and actually we're saying the same thing. I just must not be expressing myself well.
No, I get it. I'm just saying that, like, maybe not creating the entire thing, you know?
It's not going to be a full game.
Oh, okay.
They'll be like single level games, or 2 levels if it really totally makes sense, like 2 levels, showing you exactly. We're examining. Let's go back to that screen. So It probably wasn't clear. But classic mechanics. So what we're looking at is the implementation of the mechanic. Now, it'll come with a bunch of like user interfaces and stuff attached. But I mean, that's only because I think the way people will really accept this and really grok this and want to use it.
You still there?
I got to unlink. Sorry, I got to unlink these first. Otherwise, I can't delete them like that. They don't want to come in here and that be the only thing they get, because you won't be able to see that. You won't be able to run it. They want to be able to click, click, click. I chose Asteroids, run. And like, boom, see it right away. So that's more like for the feedback for new people. But when they come in here, let me go back to this other one here. When they come in and they generate one of those, that's wrong. When they generate one of those games, these parts are all going to be like the same, right? Splash screen or whatever, and all that's a little bit hard to see. So there'll be like 3 or 4 common screens. This is the part that will be different from time to time. And when they click on this and they go in, they'll go, oh, that's where the unique content is. So what you're saying is show them how to do that unique content. And I'm saying that's exactly what I'm trying to do. In addition, as I start to write up these examples in the late parts of stage 2, those will become like things that you can just drag onto your game and go, boop, that's a feature I want. You know, that's a thing. It's like a preset object style or a preset interaction that I want. Be it either. So I have to explain this a little bit. So this object here is just a rectangle, but the premise behind how this thing works is that you create what are called I can't remember they're base objects, so like a rectangle or
Primitives.
Layer, and then you add functionality on with what I call atoms. So the menu's not here right now, but there'll be a menu where you go like, hey, I'd like this thing to have play a sound, or I want it to listen for the joystick and do something when the joystick is moved. And you would just add those behaviors on here, click a couple of buttons, the atoms that is, and that thing would become more functional. So those things that I will explore to make the late stage 2 games will produce these high functionality items that you strap onto your objects to create quick, more functional objects.
Well, the drag and drop thing is definitely interesting. I think maybe what Noah and the rest of us were trying to say is just that when you think of a mechanic, you think of a single thing, right? Not a whole
like a turret or a spaceship that moves a certain way. But that's what I'm saying. So let me enumerate this, answering exactly what that example. In that example, I said asteroids. So what this would be like if you wanted to make it yourself without clicking the asteroids thing is you would create a rectangle or an image. You'd choose one of the base objects, and then you would drag a couple of, and again, the menu's not here, so let this be a stand-in. You drag a couple of things on here onto your object, and it would strap on that functionality, and suddenly what you would have is an asteroids moving spaceship You know, it's got
Okay.
the movement and wrapping and boom.
Yeah. Well, hold on. Let me stop you right there. So the drag and drop componentized or objectized, separation makes sense. Okay, I want to drag on controllers. I want to drag on screen wrap. I want to drag on whatever. Right. That makes sense. And that what we're saying is back up at the mechanics example generation. You were talking about somebody could generate asteroids, and that sounded like it was going to be the entire game all in one go.
Think if you would, a very minimalistic implementation of that core mechanic, so you can see it in action. Just the basics, not a full-on game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not interested in doing full-on games because there's no ROI for me. That's a lot of work for me, which is going to just create confusion for the end user because it's too much stuff to grok. But if they go in there and it's just like one spaceship, a couple of asteroids, they can see all that and they go, oh, I understand how that works.
Yeah. And I think maybe, and again, Noah, you can pipe in here, but I think what we were trying to say was that it might even be better if it was more granular, right? Where if you generated an example, it was just an example of controller. It was just an example of screen wrap. It was just an example of whatever.
Yeah. So let me answer that with, at the end of the day, this list of project types, there's no limit. So, it's an exploration thing. Right now, my focus is stage one, which is the user interfaces, get all the core features working, which is rectangles and backgrounds and buttons and stuff like that. Once I have that solidly working, that leads directly into making game content because it uses the same premise of the drag and drop, the strap-on additional functionality, the custom objects that might be needed. And then when I'm in stage two, then I get to do the fun part. I mean, this is all fun, but for me, the really fun part is when I've got like a tool set of my own, and then I can start like going, okay, what are the cool examples I can make? And that's the point where I might go, well, why don't we add another project type, which is fundamentals or base mechanics or, whatever, a name that makes sense where people go like asteroids movement or whatever. And then I do that, and I got all the choices I want in the world. I mean, there's no limit.
Cool. Yeah, you got to implement your base system first.
Yeah. I don't want to I hear 100% what you guys are saying, and it's a good idea.
But it's inconceivable.
It's not quite inconceivable.
Yeah, I got you. So you're doing it in stages. Got it. So.
Absolutely. I can't get too far ahead of myself.
Right.
But I've absolutely considered what you guys are saying. It's just that my first tendency is going to be to create a little bit more full examples. And again, the reason is as exciting as this product is for me, and I think that people will, once they get it, they'll go, oh yeah, this is a great idea. I need to find a way, literally I have to find a way to get people really excited. And if people come in here and they see the demos, they go, look, I can make 25 different games in like, a second. It's just like, why would I not get that?
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, nice. I love it.
So,
Well, I'm looking forward to the drag and drop piece. I think that's really cool.
Yeah. So just to reiterate, that's coming out as soon as I can. I'm not struggling. What I am doing is I'm drawing a line between, I'm working on the code generation part right now, and I'm drawing a line between generating code, which is like super long and produces great examples for people to learn from, versus just gets the job done and maybe uses the library. So to be concrete about that, I could, to generate a button, produce 20 lines of code, which include creating the listener, creating the code that draws the button and does the toggling and all that stuff. Or I could use one line of code, which is a line out of my library, SSK, that just has parameters passed to it, like what's the image it's supposed to use and what's it supposed to do. Done. Oh, where and what position it's supposed to be at. So,
yeah, I don't know if it's helpful at all for your project, but I'm learning quickly that I'm glad to see. I'm looking at your code in the background here that was generated, and it's super clean. Because the fact is people do want to dig into the code and.
Oh yeah. So let me. I'm sorry. Let me show you. I don't want to make it sound like you're not going to get good code.
No, I wasn't. That wasn't my point exactly. My point exactly was I would be careful about how much you integrate in more like abstracted stuff like you're talking about, because people are going to want to then start digging into that.
Yeah, actually, if Sergey were listening right now, I think he would be agreeing with you and asking this question. And I'm going to say right now that during stage 1 and stage 2 development, I'm absolutely going to rely upon high-level libraries. I will write code in such a way that people can read it and go, I understand what that code is doing. I can see that there's a library call. And when I read that call to the library, the arguments I see make sense. What I'm not going to do is implement longhand code for every solution. And the reason is, again, ROI. For me, that's a lot more work as far as like creating all the generational code for that. I can make mistakes all along the way. So every mistake I make is like development time spent. And I don't honestly believe at the end of the day that that's the best way to go for new users or older users. Now go back to the button example. I mean, in some cases, I will produce longhand code where it makes sense. Like, for example, let's say that the user drops in a rectangle and they set some multiply parameters for like the rendering, and they do some other stuff to it. All that stuff would come out longhand. That makes total sense. But if they do a button, I'm not going to do longhand code for every button they drop in the scene, because then the scene file would be like 10,000 lines long. Instead, I'm going to use my very robust button library, which I've been using for years, which is freely available to users, and it just, it's a one-line kind of thing. So
yeah, no, that makes absolute sense. I'm just just saying that people will want to dig. So as long as there's references for them to understand what's going on. Some people enjoy the magic. Some people don't enjoy the magic.
This is the level of the kind of stuff you're going to get. This is literally what was produced for the scene file. So the scene files are organized. They've got their headers, and they got segments, sections for putting in variables.
The code looks great. That's what I'm really excited about. I'm glad the code is really clean.
Yeah, and like build settings, you probably didn't see it, but anytime where there's like useful documentation back on the site, those links are included. For example, down here, this section of code is the required capabilities for iPhone. It's confusing. Fortunately, there's documentation on that, and so I take people to the developer lives on Apple, and I go, here's where you can learn more about this if you need to fill it in.
Well, here are the two things I like. I like that one, you're kind of solving a pain point, because even if you've done projects before in the past and you've already looked up all these configuration settings and stuff, you still, it's still time consuming and it's still error prone, right? And so you're solving that for that X factor, that pain point. And then the other part is that people, we get requests all the time from people looking for templates. They want either to take and swap out assets on something and create a different product, or they want to see it as an example so that they can kind of pick it apart and learn how the thing works. And you're kind of solving for both. And like you said earlier, that makes it attractive to somebody who may not buy the tool for the code generation piece, the configuration piece, even though they need it. But if it's like the template piece in it, they're like, they'll get the template piece and then they'll get the configuration tool as a ride along, right? And so they'll get the benefit of both, and that way they can kind of justify it to themselves either way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, you pointed it out before. This has had like a long history. Seems like forever since earlier this year, but I've been working on this, and along the way, I've had a lot of thoughts about how to make this useful in many different ways to people. And so this final version, this current version has those features, or it will have those features, like the ability to integrate more code, or to create templates and share them with people merely by sending them and letting them import them into their own copy of the tool. So, I mean, I'm really thinking about all the different users, the basic users, the professionals who want to turn this into like their own, management of their own libraries or whatever. So I'm just trying to like think of all these cases.
So Rob's got a question for you there. He says,
I just see all these chat. I saw a bunch of chat things popping up, but I didn't read them.
Is that a capital L himself?
Where is it? Are we looking at it now?
Yeah, you're looking at it now. Yeah.
Self.
Yeah, there's a capital L, and the F looks kind of, the whole self is italicized, it looks like.
Line 42?
Yep.
Yep. It could
Nope,
just be
that's a
the editor.
lowercase L. That's just the font that I'm using.
Cool.
Yeah, but it's not the same.
That's a capital L. Capital L, lower, well. It's the, what is this, Sublime?
Sublime
It's doing
font.
special formatting on the word self using a different font.
He's in a serif font, I think.
Yeah, some kind of serif font. So it's a little confusing,
That is confusing.
but don't worry.
You only have to read it, so that's
Yeah, this is only in my particular editor. When we look at this in a, let's do this right. There you go. That's what the code will look like to people with other editors. So it's all good.
Evil font.
Yeah, that's like a torture yourself font.
Okay, so when is this out? What can people expect? Where can they get it? That kind of stuff.
Okay, they can already get version 008, release 8, 2016-008. I'm using a nomenclature similar to what Corona does, which is the year and then release number. So where the year progresses, but the release number continues to increment forever, but it may have a different year in front of it. So currently 2016-008 is out, which is the version that I was showing you earlier. Let me just bring it up. Which is fully functional. Oh, come on, do the thing. And you can get it already over at Gumroad. I will give you the link this time, Charles. And I will, as we're talking here, I think I've taken up the whole show. I will update my, no, that's not it. I will update my website to have a link to the Gumroad page, but you can already get it. You can get in on the early adopter thing. Now, when is this current what you see, what you get thing going to be released? As soon as I can get it out. Like I said, I'm not struggling. I'm just trying. I'm working as like a fiend on the drag and drop elements for the UI. I'm currently working on some base buttons. So
is it possible that you would have an MVP, to use a slang? You know, would you have something that you could actually release to people without having all the other bells and whistles in?
Yeah, but it wouldn't generate code. I mean, currently what I have generates code, but only partly. And so if they generate it and they try to run it, it may break. And I hate to put something. I'm tempted to like release this and call it, play with it if you want, but it doesn't work. But I hate to do that, right?
Yeah.
It's just like people get too easily confused. So a couple days, I think. It was supposed to be today. Probably not until like Wednesday.
Okay. Was there another question? Somebody have it? Rob, did you have a question?
Adopter tool. That's nice.
Mark, sorry.
He thought of a new name for it. I thought was pretty clever.
What's the name?
It was in the chat.
Early adopter.
Another name. Variation. I know. I hate it. I did the early adopter thing because I had something that was working, and I really needed to see if people were going to engage.
No,
And
that's
they
smart.
engaged,
Yeah.
But they came back to me and go, this is okay. But when I saw it, what I really thought was, I'm like, okay, all right,
Yeah.
hurt me.
Well,
I wanted to do it. I wanted to do what you're seeing now a long time ago, but it was hard. I said this on the After Dark. One of the things that's about this is that it's been like a learning journey, right? It's like every time I've rewritten it, it got easier, and I've learned how to do things better. So this is by all means the
I
penultimate.
know that one 100%.
Yeah. And Chris, yes, on the last show, you also understood and agreed with me on that.
Yeah, I hear you, man. It does get easier every time, and it does get better every time. But every time you also still see flaws, and then you just start the process.
And you inject new
over
complexity.
again.
I'll give you one just for fun, a mind bender. the drag and drop thing looks real sexy when you drag from a button. You go, I'm going to connect it to this scene. But when you generate that code, you got to go, all right, I got a button here. It says that it's linking to this scene. Oh, let me go find the scene and see get the details about it, get the name of that file and figure it out. You're like cross-linking all this data in the generation code it's a nightmare.
Yeah, I
I'm
would.
building my own like little database handler.
Yeah,
That's fully abstracted at this point.
want to attempt that.
What's that, Steve?
The linking, is it specific to that UI, or do you have that abstracted out a bit?
It's specific to that UI because it's I don't do linking otherwise in any of the editing at this point, so I did not abstract it into a module.
Okay, because there's do you know what data flow programming is?
Yeah.
Where you can hook nodes together and send an event out of one and into another.
Yeah, I consider doing that as one of the things that I thought about doing, like stage 3, was adding the ability to do a data flow, basically like
Unreal
/ Lua editor, because that's real sexy and
I've used it before,
and people really understand how to use those things.
It's really nice once you've got it working. I've used it in other engines in the past.
Yeah, but it was too much for me to do in the initial. If I get to a stage 3 with a data flow editor, programming editor, or then I would definitely revamp the linkage code at that point.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds
But
fancy.
what? If you come up with making a data flow editor for Lua, totally share it with me.
I have stuff in a game that I haven't touched in a year and a half or so, but I might try to revive it at some point.
Yeah, what we're talking about for anybody who doesn't get this is basically drag and drop graph-based programming languages. Like the old Apple had this. I mean, everybody's had them.
It's funny. It seems like there's two sides of the fence on that. I'm totally anti that. I cannot stand those things.
Well, as a professional developer, I code faster than I would ever be able to drag and drop those.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
They're good for people who don't yet know programming constructs.
Right.
And so, for example, let's say for loop or something like that, where they don't really grok it, they don't understand it.
Yeah, it gives them visual concept.
Visual vocabulary that they can only do certain things with, they'll learn it.
Yeah, makes sense. No, I mean the concepts make sense. It's just interesting.
I don't know why I'm explaining. I'm sure you understand it. So.
The true power isn't necessarily on a one-person team. It's when you can pass it off to a designer and artist.
Right. Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, like layouts and workflows and stuff.
Well, I'm totally okay. We gotta stop. I gotta stop talking because I've totally dominated this entire hangout.
Well, that's fine. That's fine. We wanted to get an update. We got an update, and now we know. So
was that 5 minutes?
Yep.
Some planet it was.
Oh my gosh.
Well. Does anybody have any announcements on the panel before we kind of wrap things up here?
Jeez, I feel like terrible.
No, don't feel terrible.
Come on, Mike. You must have done like 3 or 4 games in the time it took me to work on that.
I've been just kind of playing around with some stuff and doing a little freelance, and so it's been I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do next.
Yeah. So tell us about your widget themes.
Yeah, I've lowered the price of my widget themes. So hopefully people will start to see those and get them.
You should drop a link, Mike.
Yeah. I'll definitely put a link in the show.
Yeah, I'll
Great creative.
I'll tweet it out if you got something.
Yeah. So I'm going to work with Charles a little bit to maybe get some little blurbs out on the Corona social media about that. And, I keep thinking that people, I don't know if the price point, I mean, I know Corona users in general won't like to pay a lot for things, but so I'm trying to figure out what that price point is going to be that people say, well, I'm going to get it just because I don't want it to look like the built-in thing. I want it to be a little different and a little.
Well, for those who don't know what you're talking about, can I describe what the widget are?
Oh, you want me to? You said you were going to, or you want me
Yeah,
to?
you know, no, go ahead. You're the author of them. So.
Oh, yeah. So basically, the widget library, you can retheme it. You can put your own artwork into it. So I created 3 different looks or designs and applied it, across all the different widgets that you can put in, like the slider and different kinds of buttons and all that kind of stuff. And I provide them in 9 different colors, those 3 different designs. So, so if somebody has an app that they're making and it's kind of got an orange theme to it, then they can utilize, the orange, pick one of the designs that kind of fits the look and feel of their app or their game or whatever it is. And, quickly kind of get up to speed. The other thing is, I think, besides, I think some people could use them for in their end game or end app, but then also if they're just trying to put something together and they don't want to use the same old built-in stuff that sometimes looks too generic, especially to clients or even sometimes to themselves, it's nice to have alternate design type look and feel that can really change how it feels when you actually put it together and you start seeing it. So or if they're showing it to a client and they want to quickly show a red and a blue and a green version, they could get these widgets if they're using widgets and quickly show that. So yeah, Charles is bringing it up here. And then I also throw in with each one of these color versions, then I also throw in the different icon buttons.
Well, that looks fantastic. Why is this not being pushed more? Why are we not?
Well, I've been hoping. I haven't. When I first did it last year, Charles did push it out a little bit, and I got a little traction. But then, of course, it quickly goes. If it's not in everybody's,
falls off the radar. Yeah.
It falls off the radar too quickly. And that's why I've been kind of always keep asking about the Corona store, because I really think that's where.
Yeah, no, I mean that's been the big thing for a while now. I mean I've been waiting for that too, but it makes me think sometimes whether there's a room for another destination. I mean, because there is so many of these things just out here, and there's not really a centralized place to kind of get a hold of them or see them even.
You're right, and that's one of the things that the App Store did for developers, right? I mean, as much as people complain about App Store policies and stuff, it's the mall, right? It's the foot traffic of software of sales, and we need something like that for all these great things for Corona too.
Yeah, I think that there's also a bigger psychological play in that it shows that people are involved on a deeper level, especially as developers. That it's not just the company; it's that there's a community around it and people who are like putting a lot of effort into it. I mean, this to me, of course, I don't know a ton about widgets, but this looks like it would take a lot of effort. So it looks good.
It did take a little time, and it kind of came about for 2 reasons. One is, as I had been building games for a couple years, even though I didn't lean on the widget library a lot myself, I ended up obviously over the years creating a lot of these looks and feels and things, and decided that I could easily take a couple weeks and crank through these, so other people could potentially use them.
Yeah, this has been something that's just been on my mind. I mean, ever since they've talked about the store, and I don't mean to say they, because obviously I'm part of the team too, but the store thing is just it's just overdue. I just really think that it's not just about what Corona itself can provide, but just the fact that it shows other people really putting effort into things. I mean, that's what really gets Unity going. I think there's a ton of subpar content on there, but it's a community, and that's what makes people stoked about it, I think.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I
Yeah,
couldn't agree more.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things I would say is that, these themes, are kind of like rounded buttons and stuff like that. And of course, now we're into the flat design sort of thing. So just might want to consider that as well.
Yeah, I think the theme 3 is a little bit more.
Yeah, it's got the sort of the chamfered edges, to use a.
Yeah, it's a little more. But yeah, I keep waiting. I wanted to do one. I wanted to do a couple more. There's several more that I wanted to do, but I wanted to see how well these did. I don't want to crank out 10 different designs, and then.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this was kind of, trying to get my toe in the water there and see.
So now let me ask you, and I just want to throw this out here just in case anybody has this thought as well. If someone came to you and said, hey, could you create me some custom stuff? You up for that?
Yeah. Actually, at the bottom of that page there.
Yeah. I'm bringing out the fine print.
Yeah. If somebody has.
Good at
Charles
that.
is good that way.
Yeah, he'll get you when you're not least expecting it too, because it'll probably be some broken link.
But yeah, I would, obviously I have all these kind of base files, so it's not a ridiculous amount of time now to recolor something, a very specific color for somebody. And, obviously it's going to cost a lot more than $5, but
Yeah.
it will be very
Can
custom.
I say, Mike, that you've got an awesome website. I really love your website.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank
it's
you.
very clean and
To the point.
yeah,
That's right.
exactly.
You're definitely, you are selling focused. You're a selling fool.
But yeah, one of the things that, I don't know if people aren't buying them because they just don't, they get lost in the pile of stuff. My other concern is are people coming here and then saying, I don't know this person, I don't know this company, what am I going to get? But if it's on the Corona, if Corona has a store and they have it in their store, I feel like, it's going to be, more people are going to see it because I think people will, that's their destination is the Corona site. And I think they'll go to the Corona store versus several links off of the Corona site into somebody's website like mine. And that they don't have to deal with, using one of these multiple third-party e-commerce solutions, like Gumroad and the one I'm using.
I hear you there, brother.
Yeah, it's also like if you've ever done a WordPress site. I mean, I don't think you got the WordPress store where you could buy themes, or you could go to a third party. I think you're right. Just being in the Corona store.
There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, it helps. Well, yeah, and it helps to standardize the process, just like you were saying a moment ago. Now you have the confidence of, hey, if something goes wrong or whatever, I can push the Corona belly button and say, hey, give me my money back or whatever.
Right. Yeah, I think people feel like they have
Now
a
I'm
little more leverage.
picturing you throwing the Sorry.
Feeling a little ill.
Sorry, Mike.
But yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, I hope if we can get, I think if we really, before I can really understand, I think, how well this could do or what the need is or want in the community, I think this probably would need to be like on a Corona store.
Well,
I think a general issue. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask Charles if he knows. Does he ever get requests for maybe animated characters or things like that? That people say. Is that something that people would be interested in?
People are always looking for. They're always looking for talent. They're always looking for artists. They're always looking for. I mean, that for sure. I think that what a lot of people run into is that there's an X factor there. They don't know how to work with people. They don't know how to communicate their needs. They don't know, there's just all these things that go into it, which causes friction. And then they wind up not engaging someone to do the things that they need to do. Or maybe it's too expensive for them, right? To do a one-off sort of thing. So if you can provide assets that they can just pop into their game that are close enough, then they'll use them for sure. So, it's definitely something that's on our radar and something that needs to happen. It needs to happen as soon as possible.
Yeah, it just seems like it just builds a sense of community too, which I think is important.
Yeah,
I
for sure.
definitely would make some assets, without a doubt.
Hey, so I just want to kind of wrap things up here, and I want to say that in terms of community and assets and all that kind of stuff like that, I wanted to say that the marketplace did get an update recently. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but if you haven't, go to coronalabs.com and click on the marketplace button there, and you'll see that there's now a header or scrolling header that shows that features plugins there, which is a lot better than just sort of your tiled or masoned squares. So those updates are sort of foundational updates that are moving us closer to paid plugins and that sort of thing. So that's, while it may not be obvious from the outside, it's definitely something that's happening under the hood. Also, the Steam plugin has been made available. So it is out there. We're going to do an announcement post this week. People have already been using it and putting apps into the App Store. And if you haven't seen Corona Geek After Dark, Josh actually went through and demoed or talked a lot about the Steam plugin, the documentation, the sample app, all that kind of stuff. So go check that out. We'll put a link in the show notes, of course. And then Appledeal came out with a plugin, which is programmatic mediation. Peanut Labs came out with a survey plugin. Polefish came out with a polls plugin. Super Awesome does a kid-friendly ads plugin. Kachava does an attribution plugin. Personally has offer walls. Kiddos has COPA compliant monetization. So there's been a lot of plugins to hit the store lately or hit the marketplace lately. So if you haven't checked that out, be sure to do so. And the one reason why I hesitate, I waffle between store and plugin, our marketplace, is because originally we were calling it a store. But just like you guys were saying, we want it to be more like a marketplace where people can get assets, not just plugins, but they can get music and images and animated pieces and stuff like that. So we want to really start thinking of it as more of a marketplace than just maybe a plugin store or plugin destination. So yeah, and then the last thing I want to mention is Candidate Crush. No, I'm sorry, not Candidate Crush. Candidate Crunch. I'll put a link in the show notes, but you guys need to go check this out. Candidate Crunch. It was actually put out by Earthworks, and it's a timely game based on politics. And you've got you can pick your side that you want to be on, and then you have to promote your candidate and keep the other candidate from winning. It's a really well done game, and it's made with Corona. So we're going to be promoting that here post haste because we're coming up on the end of the election cycle here pretty quick, and this game is really well done. It's got a lot of polish to it, and I think it's going to get a lot of attention. So you guys go check that out. I'll put a link in the show notes. All right.
Got a question for Chris real quick.
Okay.
Sure.
How can I tell what version of Corona MLS I'm running?
Right now you're running the 0.0 broken version. I think I thought there was a version call in the tool, but if not, I'll send you a path to where it is. It's stored in a file in the local cloud folder. It's called Chromium.index, I think. But beyond that, yeah, we just briefly. Everything is kind of blown apart right now. We had a lot of discussions internally about updatability and longevity, and just keeping it easy for the developer to extend it or not, which has been kind of a thing that's come up. So we're focusing way more on components. People want components. We get it. We're gonna have the whole straight users analytics, kind of very similar to how Chromium Cloud was originally. But we're also then taking, of course, an approach where there's a lot of extensibility with it for people who do want to get down to that level. So that's where that is.
I'm running 1.2.3 beta, so I have the latest.
Yeah, you have the latest. There'll be, I would say by the end of the week, the 1.3 is going to be out, and it's a completely different structure. So
Yeah, because I noticed that the documentation for the SSL setup was different than what I did when I set this site up.
Yeah, and the
So
documentation
that might have
too,
been
sometimes at the
humble.
bottom, I don't know if you're looking at the dev docs or the master docs. At the
Right,
bottom.
master.
Okay, yeah, the dev is right now, we haven't, there's been no commits from dev yet to master, so no merges. So, dev is kind of still the most up to date. So I don't know if that's changed there.
Okay.
But basically, like everything's kind of like at a general kind of standstill as far as like documentation and additional plugins. Because me and Steve are kind of reworking out the Steve Warren, just the whole kind of general deployment mechanism and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, so unfortunately right now things are kind of not really working, so it's a good time to take a break, but they will be, everything should be back up with the 1.3 hopefully by the end of the week.
All right. Well, that's okay, because I was trying to decide whether to work on toying with getting a game ported over to using Coronium or build something completely different. So
yeah, I would say put the brakes on that for now.
Okay, I got lots of explosions and stuff. Things are shooting each other and blowing stuff up, so I'm happy.
Awesome. Okay.
All right, gentlemen. Well, thanks for being here. Have a great week and happy coding.
All right.
Oh, come on. He cut it off before the best part. I do believe in miracles. By the way.
Auf Wiedersehen.
I'll read it today.
All right. Every time you say that, Ed, are you still on? Did you leave yet?
Yes.
Oh, well, by the way, I took German for 3 years in high school, and our teacher was straight from Germany, and she would like lock me in the closet kind of teacher. And so every time you say that, it just ruins the rest of my day. I'm just kidding.
How about choose?
There you go. Choose. Yeah, there you go. That's even
Wiedersehen.
a funny anecdote I hadn't got to tell you yet. All right, you guys have a good one.
Choose.